One of the best parts of being pro-life is that if you find your place, if you find yourself in the right place at the right time, you may get the chance to work with the Sisters of Life. And you may find that you have no time for anything else in your life. Back in the year 2019, that glorious year, up in Manhattan, the sisters asked if I would meet with a mother who gave birth to her baby, and now she wanted him baptized. I said, of course. They gave me a little bit of a heads up. This woman, let's call her Anne. Obviously not her real name. We'll call her Anne. She's coming from West Harlem. We're going to 66 and Lex, Upper East Side. I'm from the Dominican order. Her family's from the Dominican Republic. So get ready, right? And so we line up. We get to the parish office. I'm 6 months a priest, and I look like I'm 15, right? So let's do this. And I'm there, and the very first thing she leads off with this is a meeting to get her kid baptized. The very first thing she says to me, she says, I don't think you need to tell your sins to a man to be forgiven. And I start thinking first, what would St. Thomas Aquinas say? But also, what does this imply about her readiness to lead her kid to be baptized? Would this be a valid and going through canon law in my head too? And so I'm a little bit stunned, this young priest, okay. And so I'm silent, and she is fine talking. So she keeps going. And then she says, I'm not so sure about the Catholic Church. I'm like, oh no, what's going to come next? She says, well, it's just so old. And she says, old trees are dying trees, new trees are living trees, maybe new churches are better. I'm just like, oh, what? How do you respond, this tree analogy, there's some issues here. So I'm still stunned silent, and she keeps talking. And I don't know how she transitioned, but basically she starts telling me her whole life story. And while she began by saying she would not tell her sins to a man, she starts telling me everything. And I'm like, this is basically confession. And in fact, you're telling me more details than you should ever say in confession. I don't need to hear this. I don't want to hear this. And then she says this, after she goes through all of this. It was brokenness, and she knew it was brokenness. She said, Father, I know this man's not good for me. I know he doesn't actually love me, but sometimes it's the best I can get, and I still kind of like it. And then she paused, and she actually wanted me to respond. And so I just start opening my mouth and see what comes out. And I said something to the effect of, well, sure, some things like that, can be okay and kind of pleasurable, kind of maybe, but we have deeper desires to be known, to be understood, to be loved, to be cherished. And as the words are coming out of my mouth, I'm like, oh, Father Joseph, that was just a Hallmark card from TOB, Theology of the Body. She's going to throw that right back in my face. Much to my surprise, this Dominican Republic, West Harlem woman jumped out of her seat, got in sort of a linebacker stance, says, Father, you actually get me. And then she gave me a high five, but it wasn't high, it was belt level. It was a post-touchdown high five. Now, I don't want to pretend that it was a fairy tale after that, but in quick succession, she got her baby boy baptized, she went to confession, she already just done practice with me, and then she received her first Holy Communion, wearing a white dress, so beautiful. And she started making different choices. She had me bless her apartment in West Harlem. She walked me back and forth from the subway. It was like, thank you for protecting me, right? Now again, it's not a fairy tale. We need to pray for her. Pray for her, right? New York City, the concrete jungle, she's still going to be in the fight, right? But that was a moment that our merciful Father had mercy on a young priest and started teaching me things. I want to sort of unpack that with you right now. The first, we need to have real conversations with real people. And when we do, get ready for their reactions. Get ready for that first thing they say that is like a punch in the gut and it's not really the big deal, right? Maybe you've had this. If you represent the Catholic Church, if you have a pro-life shirt on, if you even just let people know that you love Jesus and maybe you go to Sunday Mass, you'll get reactions. Sometimes they're sort of far-flung, like they bring up the Crusades. And I'm like, do you really think Pope Francis and the bishops are gathering an army? Like, is this an actual question you're living with, right? Or they bring up like, oh, you probably don't believe in science. And I'm like, that's probably not the real question either. Like, let's get to it. People will bring up those abstract questions when they have a concrete problem. And we have to sort of just take it. For those of you who know baseball, you don't swing at the first pitch often. Let that first pitch go. Don't swing at it. Don't waste time on it. Keep listening. Make it clear you're going to keep listening until we get to the real thing. And once we get to the real thing, it's simple. Just love them. Love and say what you will. I say this because so many women who are either vulnerable to abortion, who have suffered an abortion, anywhere in that zone, so many of them don't have a single person who really listens to them, listens with a loving heart, listens to them with a heart that says, I'm going to walk this with you. Tell me what's really going on. Tell me the highs and the lows, and I don't got anything for 2 hours. Let's talk. So many of these women, abortion doesn't even feel like a choice among choices. It's the only choice sometimes it feels. And there's so much fear, so much pressure. Fear especially of abandonment. And just to create a space where they don't have to be afraid anymore. And they can speak honestly. And they can know that they're not going to be left alone. They will have someone with them. One of the strange things I've learned about the Sisters of Life, I'll explain what I mean. Sometimes they're actually very pro-choice. This is what I mean. So many times women get into a position where they feel they have no choices, and the sisters are there, whether it's on the cell phone or in a Bronx hospital, saying, there are other choices. There are other choices. And I'll walk with you. I will walk with you. In a particular way, I want to call out all the men here present. Even those of you who just started shaving, right? We need all of you. And I really mean this. Because again, for the women who are vulnerable to abortion, the women who have suffered abortion, the number of good men in their lives, men who are committed to them, I mean, sisters, you can correct me, I would say between 0 and 0.25. They maybe have a quarter of a good man who loves them. And yes, if you probably listed your skills as men, of like what skills you have, listening may not be on the top 5, right? Women are so much better. They can do relationship flips, and we are like, how do I stop looking at my phone? Like football, like, right? but the power, like the true life-giving authority. I'll put it this way. A sister told me early on, a sister of life, and I'll change the words a little bit because I have an Irish-American memory. She told me, Father, the sisters can tell these women over and over and over again the truth that they are beautiful, that they are worth it, they are chosen, that they are safe, that they are God's daughters. They can be forgiven, that there's healing. We can go through those truths dozens of times, and the women will take it under consideration. But if a man whom they trust, says it once, they take it as gold standard. They have to trust him. He has to be a sort of father figure. Even just a simple encouragement like, you're going to be such a great mother. Even if it's not planned, it just sort of comes out when you're working in the kitchen. It's the gospel truth that hits them. Especially if a man says, together we can do this. You're not going to walk this alone. There's such authority and power given to bring life and to protect it. And I ask all of us, both men and women here, in your own heart, to ask Jesus to give you the resolve that as far as you can, never to allow a woman who is suffering, a woman who is vulnerable to abortion, who has had an abortion, never to allow them to walk alone. Jesus, inasmuch as I can, I give my life that my sisters never be alone. I think of our beautiful mother, the Virgencita, when she tells Juan Dieguito, am I not here, I who am your mother? How often we need to say, I'm here and I'm your brother. Now this listening with a loving heart, you don't have to wait till you find someone in a crisis. I'm guessing the person either to your right or to your left probably at some point today will want to talk, and they probably want you to listen. And they probably don't have many people in their lives who listen just fully. No cell phones, no vibration on your phone, just like full attentive listening. Start practicing today. If you have no idea how to respond to something, that's good. Don't say anything. Just keep listening. And if it's important to them, at least pretend it's important to you until fake it till you make it. And just keep letting them know that you're going to keep listening. You're going to walk with them. But for all of these encouragements I offer to you to listen with a loving heart, there is one who is far greater than me, far greater than all of us, who gave us a command. When he spoke from the mountain to the glorious cloud, this is my son, listen to him. This is where it begins. Listen to him all the time, but especially today when you receive Holy Communion or you come up for a blessing. Listen to him. And if Jesus speaks to you, whatever way, whether in your thoughts, in your imaginations, in your heart, keep those things. Ponder them. Give your fiat, Lord, let it be done to me according to thy word. But if today, if Jesus loves you without words, if he loves you beyond words, then let him rest over your heart like a newborn baby and say, Jesus, rest as long as you want. Talk whenever you want. Jesus, may I never let you go. Jesus, may I always hold you. And if I ever begin to forget, if I ever start drooping my arms, Jesus, never let me go. Jesus, never let me go.